Hey everyone, it's Ben Hardy here, and in today's video I'm going to be talking about commercial and fleet sales within the new car market because it's getting pretty crazy. Before we get into this video though, as always, if you're going to save time and money the next time you purchase a car, link to my car buying guide in the description down below. And then if you want to see more videos just like this, then I recommend you subscribe because I post content every single day. Let's get into it. So this fleet sales data comes from Cox Automotive, and the big headline figure is that fleet sales have increased by almost 28% year over year. So from March of 2022 to March of 2023. So over 225,000 units were sold in March, which is pretty crazy. Now the fleet market share has also increased. There's a 2.4% gain year over year. So last year was 15.5%. Right now it's 17.9%. And last month the market share was 17.7%. So we're seeing year over year gains and we're seeing month over month gains. And so the fleet march, whatever you want to call it, it is not stopping. And then the brands that benefited the most from these increases in fleet sales are actually Nissan and Stellantis. And so pretty interesting. We'll kind of talk about that a little bit more later in the video, but there's your big headline figures. So if we dive into individual categories, then what we will find is that rental fleets had the biggest increase, 46% year over year. Commercial fleets were up by 6.9%, so not nearly as aggressive. And then government fleets, 39.4%. And if we look at these graphs right here, the big one is retail sales. So you guys can see retail sales still definitely consume most of the market. But if we kind of zoom in on the other little fleet sales, you guys can see that, well, rental, right, is the largest one. So not only did it have the biggest increase, but it makes up the largest portion of fleet sales. Commercials just behind rental. But yeah, those retail deals, I mean, over 1 million already. And if you're wondering, retail's increased by 5.6%. So retail obviously hasn't increased by nearly as much as, fleet has increased, but I mean, it's lagging just behind, commercial sales. So it's doing pretty good so far. And so this actually helps with increasing the estimate for the amount of new cars that will be sold in the 2023 sales year, which is a huge plus, well, at least for the automotive industry, right? 12.9 million cars will probably be sold on the retail side of things. That's up by 1.5 million from last year's pace and up by 0.6 million from last month's pace. And so this shows that February wasn't the best. March, things definitely did improve. And then, fleet's obviously going to add the rest of the sales, the new car sales for the year. And that's what's going to get us to that, 14 plus million unit range for new car sales in 2023. Now, something to mention is that these increases do not take into account fleetail sales. So if you don't know what fleetail is, this is basically where a company is essentially purchasing a fleet of vehicles, but they're doing it through the normal, retail form. So they're not going in with a fleet number and purchasing it kind of it's not direct from the manufacturer with fleet, but it's more direct, right? Instead, they're just basically going into a dealership, purchasing a bunch of vehicles. And again, this would normally be a fleet deal, but they're not going through the normal fleet outlets. And this is another area where I can tell you anecdotally, there have been massive gains. There are so many dealership sales that are happening through the fleetail world as well. We just don't have official numbers for it. So pulling everything together for today's video, what I had predicted at the beginning of the year with fleet sales is continuing to happen. Fleet sales are getting stronger and stronger as the year progresses. And again, I don't see this slowing down anytime soon because the biggest bottleneck, frankly, for fleet sales right now is production. It's not anything else outside of that. A really good example is Ford. Ford is not on the list of manufacturers that is benefiting, the most from these fleet increases, right? Stellantis and Nissan. And the reason why Ford's not on that list is because they just aren't able to build enough vehicles. If Ford was able to produce more vehicles, then they would sell them on the fleet side of things, completely guaranteed. And this is where I want to talk about the Stellantis and Nissan situation. These are two manufacturers that are not doing all of that well on the retail side of things. Nissan's doing actually better than Stellantis. Stellantis is really struggling. I've made several videos talking about, new Jeeps are not selling very well. New Rams are not selling very well. And so what Stellantis is doing is they're taking the resources that they would normally use to build retail pieces, and they're now using those to build more and more fleet pieces because they see where the market's going, right? They see that fleet is where there can be, increases in volume, Whereas with retail, things have stagnated and frankly decreased. And this is why, like, if you happen to have ordered a vehicle from one of the Stellantis brands like Dodge, Ram, Jeep, Chrysler, Alfa Romeo, Maserati, then it's probably been a situation where you've seen that your order has taken a lot longer than what it would have taken last year. And again, I'm just making an assumption here. It's probably because, again, they're allocating resources towards these fleet vehicles because, again, they're like, this is a guaranteed deal. Whereas if they go and build the retail piece, they're like, the person may or may not take delivery of this. And so, like, we have this guaranteed deal with this company, or we have this maybe deal with this retail customer. And, again, that's just that's my assumption based on what I've been seeing and what I've been hearing within the ordering world. And so I think that trend's going to continue until the monstrosity that is Ford is able to ramp up their production. Once they're able to ramp up production, especially with the new Super Duty and with their Transit, man, I'm not saying it's game over, but like Ford's going to just absolutely take over fleet sales. But anyways, let me know what you think about this fleet situation, especially if you ordered a vehicle from a Stellantis dealer and still haven't gotten your order, like it's continued to get delayed. Again, that's just my tinfoil hat idea as to why it's been delayed. But regardless, let me know what you think about the fleet stuff. I'll see you.